Okay, I want you to title this The Age of Confucianism. I'm going to take a look at ancient China. Do you recognize this? If you do, it's the terracotta soldiers. Alright? Now, China is going to be extremely important to the other civilizations because of all of its technological innovation. China is going to far surpass any of the other civilizations in terms of technology. Um, Now, looking at China's development, it was protected and isolated from outsiders. That is, I mean, look over here, we got the mountains, I mean, the deserts over here, the Gobi Deserts, Himalaya Mountains out here, and this is a sort of a vast nothingness out here. And so China, for the most part, is isolated from other civilizations. Now, as such, the two rivers that are going to dominate China are going to be the Huanghe and the Yangtze River. Okay, the Huanghe, sometimes referred to as the Yellow River, flooded all of the time. All right, and because of that, it was called China's Sorrow. All right, but it also produced this great, heavy yellow silk, which is going to give China its name, the Yellow River Civilization. Now looking here, I got a short answer question. I want you to give me a couple examples um, that demonstrate your understanding when you answer this question. Okay. Now, do you remember all that makes up? There were five components that make up a great civilization. Regardless to here, advanced cities, specialization, complex institutions. When we say that, we're talking about government. Then we're talking about record keeping and writing system, and of course, man's technology. China is going to have all of that. Notice that most of their buildings weren't made of brick or stone, they were made of wood. Right? Now, look at their social structure. They have a unique social structure in that they place peasants here in the middle, not like the Mesopotamians and the Egyptians put peasants on the bottom. They want to put them here in the middle, above artisans and soldiers. Okay, so peasants were extremely important because they produce the food or the sustenance for everyone else survival. Okay, now let's look at their writing system. Now their writing system, they use these bones to write on. All right, we call them oracle bones. And they wrote using something called pictographs, which means basically that their characters look like whatever they were describing. So, like, here's a horse, and here's the symbol for a horse. Now, over time, that character is going to get developed, but it's still basically a horse. I mean, tell me that's not a horse. I mean, do you not see a horse right there? I see his head, tail, legs. Right? Horse, it still looks like a horse. I mean, you can still see a horse here. I mean, you gotta look at it kind of hard, but it's like a horse. Right? And a wonderful thing about their language is this: they have a shared written language, but different spoken languages. This is unique. Um, so all over China, they speak different dialects. Okay, so all Chinese is not the same. There's Mandarin. There are different dialects in different areas. Now, but they all have the same written language. Right? And sort of like if you compare it to Europeans in the sense that you have German, French, um, Spanish, but they all use the same sort of letters. Okay, this is similar. Now to read this writing, you're going to start here on this side, work your way down, come back up here, and come back up here. Total opposite of what you would do in the Western world. Now, China used something called the dynastic system in terms of its government. All right, the dynastic system worked like this. They used something called the mandate of heaven, whereas a ruler had the divine right or God's approval to rule. And as long as the ruler was doing well, everything was good. But then when something bad happened, people began to question that ruler, thought he might have lost his mandate. All right, then a rebellion forms. Finally, they topple that ruler, and we get a whole new dynasty. This is the dynastic cycle. And in China's history, we're going to have over 24 dynasties and 400 different. All right. The group that I want to start off with today is the Zhao. Okay. We're going to look at three dynasties in particular: the Zhao, the Qin, and the Han. But the Zhao, we're going to start with them. The Zhao dynasty is going to use feudalism as its form of government. Now, feudalism is almost like this: the emperor controls the land. He's going to divvy the land up among his noble lords. All right. The nobles are going to take that land and divvy it up among the peasants that want to work for them, all right, and the warriors that want to work for them. So the peasants and the warriors are loyal to the noble first. This is going to cause a problem later on. It's going to work well for about 800 years, all right, and there are going to be some huge innovations in China during the Zhao era. Um, Number one is they're going to begin to produce cast iron, okay, which is the basis of steel. So they began to use iron before anybody else did. All right. Culturally, I want to point out that ancestors are extremely important. All right. That is, the old ones, when they die, you continue to worship the ancestors because they're your link to the gods. So, in an essence, the ancestors are more important than the gods themselves. All right, that's something that's still true to Chinese culture today. Um, Now, since the emperor was unable to control the nobles, because eventually the nobles are going to become more powerful than the emperor, this is going to lead to a period of what we call warring states, or the spring-autumn period. And during this time of confusion comes along a philosopher. Now, China's at war. It's like a civil war. Everyone's fighting for power here. And that's going to be the era of Confucius. All right, Confucius is going to be born in this era, and he is going, in the midst of this chaos, in the midst of China's disintegration, he's trying to figure out how to salvage, how to save China, and he comes up with this theory. All right, which we now call Confucianism, but he called it the five bonds. That is, ruler to subject. So the subject must be dutiful to the ruler. Father to son. The son must respect the father. The wife must respect the husband. All right. The older brother must show the younger brother how things are done. All right. And then there's a one level of equality here on the bottom, friend to friend. And notice in all of this, women are always beneath men. Okay, so that women are always beneath men in this system. All right, Confucianism. All right, so he believed that relationships were the key for establishing social harmony inside of China. Relationships, and he's also going to place a great degree of emphasis on education. All right, he comes up with this idea of um, civil service exams to allow peasants to be able to move up. So that was Confucius, but he wasn't the only philosopher of this era. There was another one named Lao Tzu who's going to come up with this idea of Taoism. You're probably familiar with this symbol here. All right, the yin and the yang. Now, the natural order is more important than the social order. So what he believed was that man should live within the confines of nature rather than trying to make nature fit our own desires. All right, Taoism. All right, again, but the focus was social harmony. All right, trying to figure a way out of the chaos of the period of warring states. And of course, then the final philosophy is called legalism. Now, legalism simply said the ruler just needs to be tough and make some tough laws, and then make sure that those laws are enforced to the fullest. And if anybody questions those laws, deal with them accordingly. All right, so legalism is just, boom, we're going to put it down, and this is what I see it, and this is how it's going to be. All right, I got a couple questions here for you. Answer in complete sentences. Pause if necessary. Now, this period of the warring states is also going to produce the first book of military strategy. You got all these different states vying for control. All right, and this is where this book, a great general is going to write this book called The Art of War. It's by a general named Sun Tzu, and we still use this today. It's used in business practices. You will see this in business school. You will see this in military school. This is still a great benefit to the world today. Now, as they're fighting for control, one kingdom is going to emerge more powerful than all the rest, and that kingdom is right here, the Qin kingdom.
Long ago, a mythic battle between good and evil played out in ancient China. The country was torn by civil war, with many kingdoms struggling for land and power. But one king had a ruthless ambition to make himself emperor by the sword.
我要把它研究的万每一个。
Chen Wangdi.
都退下，准备开战。
The other rulers hired assassins to kill the king before he could conquer them all.
This is documentary footage I shot last summer while I was in China.
Kingdom by kingdom, his army swept away everything in its path, and anyone who resisted met a terrible fate. The country was his. He was now emperor of all under heaven. He enslaved his conquered enemies and forced them to build his great wall. When they were dead or useless, he had them buried beneath it.
Emperor Qin. Okay, Shi Huangdi. All right. Key thing I want you to know about him is one, he's going to unite all of China for the first time. His name Shi Huangdi simply means first emperor of a united China. All right, and the name China actually comes from his um, um, kingdom, which was the Qin or the Qin kingdom. All right. Key thing I want you to understand here is one, he's going to centralize control in China using a philosophy called legalism. All right. All power is going to rest in his hands. Um, so he's going to do the direct opposite of what the Zhao did. Instead of giving out land and trusting the nobles, he's going to make sure all power is in his hands. Um, Other thing, he built this great wall, and he was extremely concerned with immortality. So he had this huge um, um, tomb built with soldiers, terracotta soldiers, and it is still around today, and one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. Okay, unfortunately, when he dies, okay, he's unable to pass on his dynasty. Right? They lose their mandate. Remember how that old mandate of heaven worked? Okay, or the dynastic cycle. All right, when a new guy comes in, everything is great and wonderful. People love him. Then something bad happens. All right, people are starting to have to pay more taxes. They say the government is corrupt. They don't trust it. They start to revolt, and that leads to revolution. And finally, a new dynasty, the mandate of heaven. And that new dynasty is going to be the Han dynasty. The Hans are going to come in and they're going to usher in what we consider the golden age of China. All right. And remember, golden age simply means advances in technology, science, and math, and agriculture, because that's where it's going to start. The Han dynasty, they're going to have improvements in agriculture that are going to lead to surpluses, which lead directly to a larger population. And if we got more people, then more people means more specialization. More specialization means more technology. So more people are going to produce and different types of technology like paper, silk mills. China is going to guard the production of silk for hundreds of years and be the world's only producer of silk for quite a while. Um, they're going to conquer new lands in Korea and Vietnam. And when they conquer these lands, they're going to have what forced assimilation, that is. They're going to sort of make them into mini Chinese, um, which is one of the reasons why they have a huge influence over these areas today. Um, they're also going to adopt a Confucian idea, the civil service exam, opening up government positions for um, educated peasants. That is, peasants could take tests and move up in society. And then, of course, they're going to have the first female ruler, Empress Lu. Empress Lu has an interesting story. When her husband died, the power went to his son, but he was too young, so Empress Lu ruled in his name as regent. And when she was ruler, okay, so she ruled until the son came of age. And when he came of age, she had to get, he mysteriously died, and the power went to the next son. She ruled, and when he came of age, he mysteriously died, and she continued to rule up until her death. Empress Lu. Now, all of this technology is going to be exported out of China along these roads here. And one of them is they're going to pass right through the hands of the old Gupta Empire in India. And they're the middlemen. Stuff is developed here, comes through here, and is sold and moved on into the West, like into Rome or Greece, or so all the empires over here only they are able to get Chinese goods is through the Indians. All right, and this is along something we call the Silk Road. Make sure you get this part right here. All right, so all of this technology and innovation travels along the Silk Roads, and some of it is going to work its way back into China. All right, in particular, a religion is going to flow from here to here. Hopefully, you know what that is. All right, which philosopher would tell rulers to lead by example? And that concludes our look at
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with